the murderer, the assassin, Dan White, and the incredible Harvey Milk, who he assassinated. Okay, so let's get a little info here. Okay, the city of San Francisco at the time had elected officials. There was the mayor, Moscone. He was elected, and then the board of supervisors were elected. And Dan White and Harvey Milk were among those. I don't know, 8, 10, however many of them, because I don't really remember. Not at this point. And Harvey had come from New York City. He had been a stockbroker or something with money, stocks. And he came to San Francisco. And he felt like he could build a different life for himself there. And he did. And he got very political. And he started hanging around with political people, say that. People who have good politics, was how you say it. They saw how oppression works, and how people are kept down, and the status crime, the crime because you're black, the crime because you're queer, okay? Status crimes. And San Francisco was changing. It was changing from a lot of blue collar, working class people, and many of them were white. Okay, they were cops, they were firefighters, they were EMT people. Okay, and they were appalled at how the city was changing. It was getting really queer. It was fag city. We don't want fag city, Well, you're getting a fag city. What are you going to do? So Dan White had been, I don't know, was he an EMT or he was one of those first responders, okay, guy, And he was elected to the Board of Supervisors because the Irish guys and all that, they could not handle a city that was going into the toilet. That's how they looked at it. And Harvey Milk was, he had one election and he didn't win. But the second election, he did. And how did he do it? He took the most downtrodden people, like little old ladies who had no pension and no little bullshit Social Security. Where are they going to live? Who gets medical care in the city? Who can have standing in court because their house is being taken away because they couldn't pay the taxes, I mean, just all these people and feminists who saw that maybe he understood that oppression is oppression. And it's like a giant ball with spikes. And in between the spikes, there are people. And you throw the ball, and people try not to fall out and not to be speared. I don't think that's a good analogy, but that's how I think of it. And he won the district because he put together a coalition of everybody who is oppressed. You know, I mean, they're South Pacific people. Um, God, I can't remember what the new names are. I have a friend who's Indian, you know, and she says we're merchants, you know. And I can't remember what they said about her case, but anyhow, um, anybody really who could register to vote, because you know some people just can't. They don't have the documentation. They're teetering. You know, do they have any say in their life? You know, just get that going. So he put a coalition together like that, and he got a seat. And he worked on stuff paying these people back, you know, because he cared. I mean, it wasn't just bullshit. And Dan White been elected, but his pension he had been a cop and he'd been a firefighter, I think, you know, like, I may be wrong, but this is how I'm remembering it. So he said he needs more money and he can't get it through the pension and all this. So he takes advantage of a program where certain income level, certain whatever, you could get a little shoehorned restaurant or shop or whatever by the bay. And so that's what he did. And it was called a hot potato. And it's served hot potatoes with, you know, you can put anything you want on it. But turns out it didn't pay a lot. So he's elected again. I think that's how it went. No, he wasn't elected again, I think. You know, this is a while back and I'm just not sure I'm remembering it right. Anyhow, that didn't work for him. Didn't work for his family. He wanted to do something else. And yes, he got a seat again. He did. And his office was not far from Harvey Milk's. And he got a political lesson from Harvey. Dan White was trying to get some piece of legislation passed. And Harvey said, yeah, well, we could do that. And then when it came time to vote, he said, no, I can't do it in this form. I can't do it. And so Dan White had invited people to come and watch him get something passed, and it didn't pass. So he was so furious. He felt so fucked over. And he was like, oh, these fags, all these dykes, you know, all these, you know, N-word, all these C-word, you know, all of these people, they're the ones that fucked me over. And I know who's behind it. And so Dan left. And in a couple of days, he came in through a little back door to City Hall. And he had several weapons, I think. One handgun and another handgun, I think it wasn't the sawed-off shotgun. And he went to the mayor's office and blam, 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 because Moscone wouldn't, appoint him like he should have. Then he went to Harvey's office, and bam, 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 he smirked at me. And the noise was such that finally, people came towards the noise, and he didn't shoot anybody anymore. Just put it down and was arrested. Somebody knew. And we did not know until much later, decades later, that Dan White was running the jails. He put his feet up. He had a telephone. He had a desk. He would order lunch and dinner, and if it wasn't right, and nobody knew at that point. I mean, it was just a piece of human garbage, really. He wouldn't think that, and some of his contemporaries wouldn't think that. But after I learned everything I could about him and his bullshit and how he killed these two people and why, it wasn't just Harvey smirked at him. Harvey had put all these groups together, and Moscone wasn't going to let Dan White back because he was just fly in the ointment. So they had to be killed. Like I said, I read everything I could get. All the different magazines, I saw a couple of tape. There was a magazine then called Christopher Street from New York. And the covers, so Harvey saying, let the bullets that rip through my brain hit every closet door in America and blows it open. Well, it didn't do that, but it did for a couple of people. And I took all these things that he said, like this really, really homophobic stuff, and, really misogynistic. I love women. I don't. No, you don't. And I took it all, and I came up with, well, I guess it's a skit, but it was more like a play. Okay? And Gil Robeson was the other person. And I was Harvey Milk's lawyer, supposedly. And I put things out there that he said that were unbelievable. I don't think I can find that anymore, but we just went at it hammer and tongs, and Gil was represented the court, and we turned to people afterwards and said, what do you think? Guilty! But that was a lot of effort to come for that, but you do the work.